Hey guys, welcome to the other side with me, Anita Hartog. Today I'm here with my friend Jessica DeLeon. I am actually telling my own story today, so I needed somebody to help interview me. Jessica's going to keep me on track. She is a counselor and a wonderful dear friend, and I'm so grateful that she is here with me today. So thanks for joining me.
Thanks for asking me. I feel really honored.
Oh my gosh. I'm like not that important, but thanks for being
In
honored. I
my world,
appreciate it.
you are.
Oh yeah. I love it. I love it.
So let's just start by what is your intention for this podcast?
My intention is to bring awareness to mental health
Mhm.
and to talk about stories that most people don't, whether it's embarrassment,
Mhm.
shame,
Mhm.
or the fact that they just kind of wanted to move on and get on with life,
Mhm.
and that's kind of been my situation
Yeah.
in the past. I just wanted to forget about it and move on with life,
Mhm.
not live in the past, as they say,
Right.
right? So,
And I think
yeah.
that's one of the things that you and I are, kind of have in common is that we're both very transparent and vulnerable about
Yes.
what we've experienced in our life. And we're not afraid to talk about the taboo, which I
Right.
really appreciate
Oh,
about you.
yeah.
So, what is it about mental health? Why is this important to you?
Well, most people don't know about me is that I tried to take my life at the age of 18. It was just a crazy time. I had my first real boyfriend, and when you don't know what you don't know,
Right.
right? My parents were married for 25 years. They had a great marriage. I just figured you get married, you have children, and you have a family, and that's kind of what life is.
Mhm.
And I dated him, and he liked other women, and as most young boys do, right? I
Mhm.
was only 18, and he was my first everything,
Mhm.
and it just that didn't work out, and that left me really feeling down on
Mhm.
myself, and then I struggled with body image,
Mhm.
and of course, if he's cheating on me, it's because I'm not hot, right? I'm not as pretty as these girls, and so then that slowly manifested into bulimia.
Mhm.
So you add that on top of the fact that my parents were having issues and me not knowing at that time that I was an empath and I was just really sucking in all this energy that
Mhm.
wasn't even mine. So I'm dealing with my own and then I'm dealing with theirs and it just became overwhelming and I was tired
Mhm.
and I just wanted it done. I was like raised Catholic, always
Mhm.
told how beautiful heaven was and the truth is I just wanted to be home with
Yeah.
my father,
Yeah.
you know. And so yeah, I attempted and obviously did not succeed,
Mhm.
thank God, because I'm here now to share my story,
Mhm.
but fast forward 30 years, my nephew, he surrendered his life.
Mm.
And I could not help but think, what if I would have said something?
Mm.
What if I would have talked about it or shared my story? Maybe things would have been different.
Mhm.
So now I just feel like it's my life's purpose
Mhm.
to share my story and to let others know that, there's power in your story.
Yes.
Like, you're a survivor. I'm a
Yes,
survivor.
you are.
And thank God that my sister introduced us to the American Foundation for Suicide
Mhm.
Prevention
Mhm.
because that's where I was allowed to first share my story
Right.
and to realize, like, man, there's hundreds of people here.
Yeah.
And then they're either suffering, like living with a loss,
Mhm.
or them themselves are struggling
Mhm.
with mental health issues themselves.
Right.
And so it just showed me this whole community that was just hurting and hungry
Right.
for information and
Yeah.
help and
Yeah.
resources.
And unfortunately, there's still such a stigma about this topic, and whether through the religious lens or, clinical, that this is something, it's a sensitive conversation. So to go a little bit deeper, what do you wish people understood about somebody who's contemplating surrendering their life?
They have to know that you can talk to them.
Mhm.
You can clearly ask them, are you feeling suicidal?
Mhm.
That's not going to make them commit suicide.
Mhm.
That's going to give them an opportunity to say yes that they have.
Mhm.
And if they don't, you at least they know that somebody cares,
Right.
right? And they
Mhm.
might not say they have, but they may have.
Yeah.
And then you ask them, like, have you, if they say yes, then have you thought of how
Mhm.
you're going to do it?
Mhm.
Because then that shows that they've even taken it that far.
Right.
So it's like, okay, maybe they need a little more help, and
Mhm.
and you're able to give them resources in order to talk to somebody,
Mhm.
and or maybe you be the sounding board for a minute and
Right.
just listen.
Just listen.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there's you can't save somebody,
Mhm.
but you can listen, and sometimes that's saving
Mhm.
somebody. But
Mhm.
we have to also know that we're not equipped
Right.
to help them.
Yeah.
So we have to, find resources to help them, but at least they know that somebody cares.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And I find it interesting that you titled your podcast The Other Side. And, talking about this dark time in your life and contemplating suicide and actually attempting, what what made you get to the other side of that? Like, how did you kind of find the light and want to continue to be here on earth?
It's like they say your life flashes before your
Mhm.
eyes. And I was 18 at the time. So being 18, I saw my family,
Mm.
and I just knew that fortunately for me, I did have a strong base
Mhm.
until I was 18,
Mhm.
which was sometimes, is harder
Mhm.
because this life you thought was going to be forever, it's like you feel like it's all a fraud. It's
Right.
it's a sham, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, when we're telling our own stories, sometimes other people's stories come out. And
Mhm.
when I was 18, my dad cheated on my mom after
Mhm.
25 years.
Mm. Mhm.
So that was tragic. Everything I knew to be true was not
Right.
anymore.
Right.
But the reality is that I realized, like, this is still my life, and I
Mhm.
I do wanna live.
Yeah.
I don't wanna be done yet.
Yeah.
And I called my parents, and they called 911, but for me, that was that moment in time,
Mhm.
you know? Yeah.
And this really speaks to something that's near and dear to my heart as a counselor. What I see is that what we're really missing in society is what we, used to do in the past, and in other cultures they still honor, these threshold ceremonies. When you reach a new phase of life, the community gathers around and celebrates that new phase of life. We just did this for my daughter, and Anita
Mhm.
was part of that. We did a threshold ceremony, initiating her into adulthood. And one of the things I learned in preparation for that ceremony was specifically moving from teenage to adulthood, and you being 18 when you were going through this
Mhm.
phase of your life. From a spiritual standpoint, there is a death that occurs when you're moving from childhood into adulthood. And if that transition is not honored and supported, there's this kind of almost like glitch that happens where you do want to die, but it's a spiritual death that needs to happen. And there's something that I think that's really important to speak about this, and all many different phases of our life
Mhm.
when there's a death and a rebirth, and how can we kind of honor that phase in our life. And it's not that something's wrong or bad. There is a death happening. There is a
Mhm.
descent. There is a going inside, and something needs to be reconciled for a new phase, and a rebirth that's happening.
And, I think people think, right, they have a party.
Mhm,
And
right. A
a
quinceañera.
quinceañera or a big party,
Right.
and it's totally different. I mean, that ceremony was beautiful. We were able to surround her and pray about her and
Yeah.
give her, like, some real information
Mhm.
on becoming an adult,
Right.
and celebrating that moment of becoming an adult,
Yeah.
and letting her know that we're here,
Right.
and that like, real
Yeah.
conversations, not just a party. It's so there's so much confusion in the
So
world today,
much.
and so much distraction,
So
and
much.
and we've really lost that community, and
Mhm.
and we I think as a people, we desire that village community.
Yes.
And when they say it takes a village, it takes a freaking
It does.
village.
It
I
does.
I had my son at 22 because I was traumatized, right, from my life, from what happened.
Mhm.
So then I go become a young parent,
Mhm.
but I'm a effed up parent
Yeah.
because I'm messed up in my head
Mhm.
myself. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, that led me to raise somebody who wasn't so altogether. And
Mhm.
now, being wiser and
Mhm.
older, I find myself trying to nurture my son
Yeah.
the way he should have been nurtured then.
Yeah.
And I see the troubles he goes through, and I
Mhm.
just think, damn it, he's me. Like, he's a reflection of me.
Yeah.
And you're looking in the mirror, and you're like, okay, but now how do I fix this?
Right.
Because it's never too late to fix it.
Mhm.
So I find that's part of this. Like,
Yeah.
I want to fix it, but I don't just want to fix it in my son. I want to fix it in the world.
Mhm.
And I believe, like, we could change the world.
I think having these conversations, these really uncomfortable, sensitive conversations is what is healing, like in the program they say that we're only as sick as our secrets. And I
Yes.
as a counselor can speak to when there are family secrets, whether it's something that you're holding personally or that there's some type of dysfunctional dynamic that is going on in the family that no one discusses. And
Mhm. The
um
skeletons in the
it's a
closet, as
cancer.
they say. Yes,
Absolutely.
yes. Well, all the skeletons need to be brought out of the
Yeah.
closet. Maybe not all of them, but, the ones that can be shared.
Right.
And it's not even that, like, it was a big family secret.
Mhm.
It's just that we just why?
Mhm.
Why go back?
Mhm.
But some things need to be addressed
Yeah.
and shared.
Yeah.
And yes, that's part of this. Like,
Mhm.
I think we need to normalize these conversations
Mhm.
and not make it so taboo
Yeah.
to share your trials, because being in real estate now that I am, and seeing how, unfortunately, it can be superficial. It
Mhm.
can be very superficial,
Mhm.
even Instagram. I was laughing. I'm right now. We sat down and I'm like, oh my God, I have to stop filming with the filter because looking at myself without a filter, it's like, can I do this with no filter?
Right.
But it's real life. And yes, absolutely. This is how passionate I am because I'm doing this with no filter. But it's important to now think like, hey, what story do I have
Mhm.
that I can share with the world
Yeah.
that may change somebody's life?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And yeah, that's why I want to share my story.
Mhm. One thing that's coming forward is if you could go back in time to your 18-year-old self, what would you say to her from the position of like your wise woman? Like what did she need to hear from a guardian at that time that maybe she didn't get?
That my feelings were valid.
Yeah. Yeah.
That my feelings were valid.
Yeah. Absolutely.
People think that their kids are oblivious to what's going on.
Yes.
They think that they're too young
Mhm.
to handle an adult
Mhm.
conversation.
Mhm.
But most of the time, they need to have that adult
Yes.
conversation.
Yeah.
They need to know that they're heard
Mhm.
and that they're valued
Mhm.
and that their opinion isn't just, I mean, sometimes they're smarter than we are.
Yeah.
Shit, let's be real. Like sometimes they'll
Yeah.
give us advice and you're just like,
Wow.
oh, damn.
Yeah.
you
No,
know?
absolutely.
And that happened a lot when we were at the ceremony.
Yes, it did. I can speak from
Yeah,
experience. Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, yeah, your feelings are valid
Mhm.
and let's have a real conversation. Like,
Yeah.
don't think your kids are dumb and that they don't know what's going on in your relationship.
Mhm.
They see and hear everything.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I would tell her that.
Yeah. So looking into the future now, you're in real estate. You and I met through our service trips together with Prosperity Homes, where we go
Mhm.
and build homes for the migrant workers in Ensenada.
Yes.
If I know anything about you, it's that you are incredibly generous and you
No.
are a helper. And so with the spirit of like what you've experienced in your life and your nephew and the loss of his
Mhm.
life, how are you taking all of that and kind of sharing it as a gift in the service to the world?
Ooh, that's good. Well, it's really crazy because what other people don't know, what else they don't know, is that I was having issues with my husband
Mhm.
already
Mhm.
when my nephew passed, and my nephew surrendered his life on my ex's birthday.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Wow.
so every the birthday just passed,
Okay.
January 18th.
Mhm.
So it was a death birthday
Mhm.
and a life birthday,
Wow.
but it was also kind of like a double death birthday because my ex, as you know, is on the street,
Yeah.
you know? So I was dealing with him, and mind you, in case you guys don't know, my ex turned from millionaire to meth addict.
Mhm.
Like my whole family saw us go from multiple homes, a 60-foot yacht,
Mhm.
to, a condo in Long Beach and
Yep.
kayaks, right?
Yep.
They just saw us
The good
downsize,
life.
downsize,
Yeah.
downsize. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was great. I mean, I lived the good life, but the thing is too, I never it's like appreciate everything but be attached to nothing.
Yep.
And I've always lived that way.
Mhm.
So for me, like adjustment was always easy, for him not so much.
Yeah.
So I've dealing with all of that. I forgot your question.
Looking into the future.
Yeah. So now looking into the future, I say it again. Sorry.
Well, I think that the fact that you've had this experience with your former partner,
Hmm.
and to me that I didn't know about your nephew and his birthday
Yes.
overlapping. So
Yes.
there's a stream of wisdom called Sacred Contracts by Carolyn Mace, and
Your husband told me to.
yes, and so the premise is that we are eternal beings having a human incarnation, and this is Earth School, and we play these different roles in each other's
Hmm.
lives. We have these soul contracts of what we're going to learn in the dynamics with
Hmm.
one another. And so just kind of with that awareness, like what do you think the soul contract could be that you and your nephew had? And then what could possibly be the soul contract that you and your former partner have that you're learning through, witnessing his dysfunction and him being on the streets?
Well, it's really funny you said we're in school
Mhm.
because I did have someone call my sister after my nephew passed,
Mhm.
and she said that she couldn't get like she had to find my sister because this boy wouldn't leave her alone.
Mhm.
And his message to her was, he's in school now and
Okay.
he's okay.
Yeah.
Like now he's in heaven school, I
Right.
guess, right?
So like a psychic medium called your
Yes,
sister.
yes, yes,
Okay.
because she just kept getting this voice,
Right.
like, so she had to find my sister, and
Yeah.
she finally found her through a friend and was like, "Oh, I gotta meet her because this guy, he's been coming to me."
Uh-huh.
And so she did, and so the soul contract with my nephew, I believe, was to share my story.
Mhm.
I believe he's with me every day.
Mhm.
I mean, he sends me hearts and, I get my angel numbers. I mean, even this tree, like, I have a tattoo and Jessica, shared with me, like, "Did you see your tattoos here?" And I told them to send me a sign. I'm like, "Send me a sign," and that's the sign, so it's on set. But
Always.
yeah, yeah. And the soul contract with my ex, that's even funnier because, I believe he was high a lot of the time, I didn't know,
Yeah.
and I used to tell him, like, "I believe we were together before," and I
Mhm.
really meant it. Like, I
Mhm.
believed, like, he was my soulmate and we were
Mhm.
together before, but that soul contract, I have no idea. All I can say is that he would always say, "I'm gonna end up under a bridge." And I would say, "Well, maybe you're gonna end up under a bridge."
Before, so he would say that you were gonna end up in
He
a
was gonna
oh,
end up under a
before
bridge.
you knew that he was struggling with addiction?
Yes, but
Okay.
I believe he knew he was struggling with
Okay.
addiction.
Okay.
Why else would anybody say that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
It's just crazy to
Right.
me,
And I mean, rule number 1 of the 4 agreements is be impeccable with your words. So, like,
Yes.
that's literally, like, manifesting that into reality.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I would say, like, I'm not gonna end
I
up
won't be there
under
with
bridge.
you. Yeah. Let's
Exactly,
be
I'm
really
like,
clear.
"Yes, maybe
Yeah.
you are, but I am not."
Yeah.
And then I remember one time, I was in the bathroom crying
Mhm.
because something had happened, and I've always believed in childlike faith. I mean, I
Mm.
have childlike faith. I live like a kid,
Yeah.
and I mean, I eat like a teenager.
You and
So
me both, sister.
yeah, yeah. So, I was crying and I'm like, "Lord, am I stupid? Like, am I stupid for having childlike faith? Like, I just
Mhm.
believe you're gonna make everything okay, you know?"
Mhm.
And this is after the house was gone and the condo in San
Yeah.
Diego was gone and the yacht was gone, but I still, I was happy where I was. Like, I was
Mhm.
healthy. I had my family. Everybody's alive. I'm good.
Yeah.
And I walked outside after crying, and I sat with my husband at the time, and the first words out of his mouth, I am not lying, was, "What a blessing it would be to have childlike faith."
Wow.
And again, an answer straight from the universe,
Yeah.
man, like
Yeah.
straight from God. So that just said it all to me.
Yeah.
Like, you know what, Anita, you're on the right path. Like, just
Absolutely.
continue to have childlike faith. I
Yeah.
will take care of you.
Yeah.
And he has.
Yeah.
He has.
And that's one thing that I love about you and is really inspiring is that your faith and your devotion and your intimacy with your God is so
Ugh,
profound. Has it always been like that for you? Like, were you like this as a little
yes.
kid, or did you have like a spiritual awakening?
Maybe I had a spiritual awakening, but I can tell you as a little kid being raised Catholic,
Mm-hmm.
them wanting me to go to confession
Mm-hmm.
was always like BS to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what the hell? Like, why am I going to go tell this person behind this curtain he's still a person? Like, I
Right.
mean, I would lie in confession because, like, am I going to tell somebody what I did wrong? Like, I don't know you, you know. And
Yeah.
then I'd always think, and how many Hail Marys and Our Fathers does he know is going to make it right? Like, it
Right.
just seemed like just crap to
Mm-hmm.
me, you know. So yeah, I was always a rebel in that sense. And because I'd be like, you've told me all my life, he knows every number of hair on my head.
Right.
And so what the hell? He knows what I did wrong. I don't need to go tell somebody what I did wrong. I just need to tell him, like,
Yeah.
forgive me, Lord, So yeah, I've always had kind of a rebel mentality when it
Mhm.
comes to God,
Yeah.
because I did have my own relationship, and I think that's why I wanted to go home.
Yeah.
Literally wanted to go home. When
Yeah.
I think of my God, my father, like, I think of my father.
Mhm.
Like, the day I meet him, I just imagine myself running into his arms and
Yeah.
literally jumping, and it, like, man, I'm home. Like,
Yeah.
there's no disconnect
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. And I think there's something about being a highly sensitive person or being an empath, whatever, title you want to use, and having these moments of not wanting to be here. Having these moments of like, I don't this doesn't feel good being human.
Yeah.
There's too much suffering. We talk about this when we're
Yes.
going and doing our service trips. Like there's extreme poverty that we're witnessing, extreme suffering, and your heart just breaks over
Yeah.
it. And that's something that is really important to me in my counseling practice is being able to, I think the spiritual phrase is to be in this world but not of it,
Mm-hmm.
to have like a healthy level of detachment almost
You have
because
to.
it will swallow you up.
Yep. It'll swallow you up.
Yeah.
And that's actually what the medium told my sister. That
Mhm.
the world was too much
Too much.
for
Yeah.
my nephew. It
Yeah.
swallowed him up. And I believe he was highly sensitive too.
Yeah.
Because at the funeral, everybody who got up there said, and he was always happy, like always smiling. I knew he
Mhm.
struggled with some issues. I didn't realize he was a high functioning depressive as well.
Yeah.
But everybody who got up and spoke at his funeral just always said how wonderful he was. And he was always there for everyone, and he would listen to their problems. And this
Mhm.
was everybody. So can you imagine not being a counselor and listening to everybody's
Right.
problems at a young age and
Yeah.
not knowing how to deal with all these emotions that are coming in?
Mhm.
I mean, sometimes I'm driving down the street. I'm not kidding. I'll break out in tears and I'll
Yeah.
wonder what the hell's going on. And there'll be a funeral procession driving
Right.
by. So it's like things like that. And if you're not aware, I
Mhm.
wasn't aware.
Mhm.
I became aware later.
Yeah.
And then it all started making sense.
Mhm.
So that's also why I wanted to do this, because it's like you need to be aware that we're powerful,
Yes.
that these things
Yes.
exist. And if the more you're aware, the more you can deal with it, and the more you can understand it, and the more
Mhm.
you can help and
Yeah.
serve. And that's what took me into service
Mhm.
was my ex.
Mm.
I needed somewhere to serve.
Yeah.
Like and it was both of them actually.
Mhm.
I started serving at the church,
Yeah.
the youth group. But, that went bad after 2 years because my ex showed up.
Oh no.
Yeah, and then the pastor put out an email and like let all these people know that I didn't even know, and I'm getting approached at church, and so yeah, people
How
are
do you
people.
reconcile that though? I mean, this is a man that you were married to for how many years?
I was married to him for 10 years. We were
Mhm.
together for 14.
Okay. And presently, like where are you at in your heart with him? I mean, is there resentment? Is there compassion for him?
So much
Yeah.
compassion. Sometimes too much compassion.
Mhm.
But, the love will always be there.
Yeah.
He's a human being,
Of course.
right? Who wants to see a human being suffer? And then to see somebody so successful
Mhm.
literally crash,
Yeah.
like just watch it
Mhm.
was unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, how does this happen? And then being a wife and knowing, like, because he lost his mom, and then a
Mhm.
year later, or it was actually the opposite. He lost his brother, and then a year later he lost his mother to cancer.
Okay.
And he also lost his business,
Yeah.
and so many things had happened, and so I didn't know if he was depressed
Mhm.
or what do you do, and so I just started learning real estate
Yeah.
and serving,
Mhm.
and then meeting so many amazing people
Mhm.
like you and Daniel and
Yeah.
Prosperity Homes, and but that all came from service.
Mhm.
Like,
And you have that kind of that heart towards your real estate practice. I mean, it is like your love language, your act of service. So can you talk a little bit about your relationship with real estate?
my relationship with real estate, what's really interesting, because like I said, when I started real estate, I was really down. And
Yeah.
then I come and I hadn't worked, mind you, for over 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah,
You really were living the
I
life.
was I was retired. I was retired, living the life, Yeah, just traveling and going fishing on the
Yeah.
yacht for weekends,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Life of
craziness. The
luxury.
life of luxury,
Yeah.
yeah. And then and then it's like, bam, gotta go to work. and
Mhm.
I'm 50.
Mhm.
And I would go into the office and all these beautiful women. I mean, I couldn't have gone to a office with hotter women, honestly. It's like, dang. I thought I was
Nice.
cute. Yeah, it was funny too because my ex told me that when I started. He goes, "Oh, you must be the hottest girl in the office." I'm like, "Oh, dang, you haven't been to my office." It's like Pico Rivera. It's like, boobies and butts everywhere. Yeah, it was great. But it was really crazy because I didn't know what to do. I,
Yeah.
I was lost, and
Mhm.
and my brother told me, "Why don't you go talk to this man, Richard?" Say his name because he actually helped me a lot. He doesn't
Mm.
even know it,
Mm.
but
Thank you,
this
Richard.
thank you, Richard. I may interview him. I asked him already, but I went into the interview and they said, "Why do you want to work here?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know. That's why I'm here." And they're
Mhm.
like, "Well, it's online." I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm here.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell me what you have to offer a new agent?" And he like started going through. We have training, we have Bible study, we have Toastmasters, we have book club, but something about Toastmasters, it
Mhm.
was like, I have to do this.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I'm in. And being so low, I was trying to build myself up. I joined everything. I joined book club and Toastmasters and all of it. And Richard ended up giving a speech, and it was his story,
Mm.
not knowing my story.
Mhm.
And his story was like my story.
Mhm.
And he talked about how wonderful his wife was in that
Mm.
moment. And it was like, wow, So knowing the power
Mhm.
of a story,
Yeah.
knowing what his story did for me
Mhm.
really pushed me into like it was that moment where you're like, wow, this is really what I need to do.
Mhm.
I need to share my story.
Yeah.
And I need to be in Toastmasters.
Mhm.
And I need to be on stage because people need to hear what I have to say.
But when you talk about that, you get emotional. Why does it make you emotional?
Because I think that's when I found my why.
Okay.
People always talk about what's your why, find your
Mhm.
why. How do you find your why?
Mhm.
And they're always looking at finding their why. And
Mhm.
the only advice I can give to find your why is keep going.
Yeah.
Just keep moving.
Mhm.
Do different things. Ask questions.
Yeah.
Like don't stop because I mean, man, I remember the mornings like I'd wake up and I would like that was the hardest part.
Mhm.
Getting out of bed
Mhm.
and opening the blinds
Mhm.
and then getting ready and going into this office with all these beautiful people
Mhm.
and trying to stay focused.
Yeah.
But real estate's been a saving grace.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's all about mindset
Mhm.
and, believing in yourself and knowing you can do it and coaches and all this you rah rah,
Yep.
It's so, but I sucked up all the rah rah, but
Yeah.
the rah rah that worked for me.
Right.
Not the money, not
Mhm.
how to make the money. Like
Mhm.
money's never been my passion.
Yeah.
It is now,
Mhm.
like because now it's like I read You're a Badass at Making Money,
Mhm.
and that changed my life.
What did you learn from reading that book?
All the blocks we have about money,
Mhm.
especially like the ones you don't know about.
Yeah.
You know, money's the root of all evil.
Right.
It's like that's
Yeah.
crap. People are evil.
Well,
The
the
money
actual
is not
phrase is
evil.
the love of money is the
See?
root of all evil.
Right, but
Yeah.
they throw that out just
Right.
like jack of all trades, master of none. I'd hear that all the time. Ugh, I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. Like,
Mhm.
eh. And then I heard on TikTok, jack of all trades, master of none is better than being only a master of
Yep.
one. And I'm like, oh damn. Then
Yeah.
I can pat myself on the back. Okay, I'm on the right track. But
Yeah.
it takes little things like that to make you believe. Like, so really, real estate just made me start searching more
Mhm.
and believing in myself more
Yeah.
and realizing like and learning how to tune out the noise.
Huge.
Learning how to tune out the noise.
Yeah.
Because I know when I started real estate, like in the office I was in was very competitive.
Mhm.
And I'm sure people were talking shit about me, like, oh, she just wants to dress up and come to work every day and look cute. It's like, no, me dressing up and coming to work every day is freaking work.
Yeah. Was your saving grace.
Yeah.
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 So the money, like I wasn't trying to make money. I was
Right.
trying to survive
Yeah.
like my soul,
Right.
you know?
And that's the thing is that we never know what is really going on the other side of somebody's life,
Yeah.
especially with this like, social media lifestyle and, these the highlight reels,
Oh
and you just
yeah.
don't know what somebody's story is. And so,
Yes.
I just want to like thank you and acknowledge you for creating this platform for people to share the truth of their story because it is sacred. It is medicinal, just like, you was it Richard sharing his
Mhm.
story and the
Mhm.
impact that it had on you. You're creating a container for that for other people as well. And I think it's really important.
And that's what I wanna do. I just wanna I want people to find the freedom and the
Mhm.
liberation
Mm.
that I did in sharing my story,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
finally sharing my story and
Yeah.
realizing that, hey, man, like, it's not something to be ashamed of or
Yeah.
embarrassed of. Like, people need to
Right.
know. Like, they need to know that you're not just this hot chick.
You are that and
Yeah,
so
yeah,
much more.
thanks. But yeah, like, and the best part about it for me is when I tell people my story and they're like,
Mhm.
"We had no idea."
Right.
It's like, "Good.
Yeah.
I didn't want you to have an idea."
Right.
Because my Instagram at that time, like, my sister would tell me that too, "You're so fake. Like, it's so fake."
Mm.
And not knowing that she was, like, so damaging, like,
Yeah.
it's not fake.
Yeah.
It's not, that's me.
Right. Right.
I'm fighting to keep me
Yes.
and to find me again,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So that part about it was like the best.
What is something that you feel like people like misconstrue about you or something that you wish people understood about you that they don't understand?
When people ask me that question, I always laugh because I have a TikTok that I did, and I'm all, people think just because I'm Christian, I won't slap you. Like, I'll slap you and pray for forgiveness, Like, don't mistake my kindness for
Yeah.
weakness. Don't think because I'm Christian, I'm not going to speak up.
Right.
Um, you know, God, I believe there's warriors, right? I am
Yeah.
a Christ warrior. Like,
Mhm.
I'm not gonna stay quiet. I'm
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you know what I think.
Mhm.
And just because I'm Christian doesn't mean I'm gonna keep my mouth shut or I'm gonna agree with everything you say because you go to church and you're Christian.
Right.
Like, no,
Yeah.
like we all have a mind of our own and it's
Mhm.
time we start using it and voicing our opinions. And there's a
Amen.
healthy way to do that,
Yeah.
like this,
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
it's not not trying to fight, right? It's
No.
not combative.
Yeah.
It's just having a real conversation. And I think the more conversations we have
Mhm.
as humanity, like
Yeah.
humans, the more we understand. And that's a big problem I do have with religion
Mm.
is it can be so legalistic.
Mhm.
And life isn't
Dogmatic. Yeah.
legalistic.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like and God wasn't. I mean, he had his moments, but for the most part, he loved everybody.
Mhm.
He sat with the prostitutes and the tax collectors and
Mhm.
I mean, this chick on Instagram, it was so funny. She got so angry over a woman's like, what was it? What is it called when they with
Or
fans only
yeah,
page? Yeah,
OnlyFans. Yeah.
fans
Mhm.
only. But it's like, leave her alone.
Mhm.
Why do you have to be hateful?
Yeah.
I mean, when I started real estate, it was
Mhm.
really funny because I left to go to another company
Mhm.
and I had people come at me.
Mhm.
And I was new to real estate. I
Mhm.
kind of still I started in 2019,
Mhm.
so it is new to me
Yeah.
and hearing people like, don't forget where you came from. And I'm like, and then I go back to like, I came from my mom. Like, what do you mean? Is it we in a gang? Like this is
Yeah.
real estate. Yeah. So it was interesting to me. And um, but I'm continuing to grow. I'm continuing to grow my business
Yeah.
and my life and my network and
Mhm.
my friends and so I've learned to just shut people out
Mhm.
because they don't pay my bills.
That's right.
So, you can have an
I
opinion.
love this question. If you were independently wealthy, if you had more money than you knew what to do with, what would you do with your time?
Oh, I'd have my ranch.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
So I want to build a ranch. We take the kids camping. I
Mhm.
also work with another foundation, Chilo Foundation, and we would take the kids camping every
Mhm.
year. We did that, I think, for the last 3 years, 4 years. And
My kiddos had the privilege of going with you guys. So
yes,
thank you
they
for that
did. Oh
invitation.
my
Yeah.
gosh, they're amazing. Your kids are amazing. I'll take them anytime. Yeah, but I noticed also that there's a lot of distraction in the world,
Yes.
and the camp is fun that we go to.
Mhm.
It's great, but I want to have a camp with equine therapy,
Mhm.
and I want them to learn breath work.
Yeah.
And I want them to learn how to meditate.
Mhm.
And I don't want any distractions there. The only
Mhm.
distractions there I want are animals.
Yes.
I want them to chase the chickens and to play with the pigs and to learn how to self-soothe and to
Mhm.
learn how to just self-soothe by listening to the wind and the
Yes.
trees. I mean, just laying on the grass and
Mhm.
grounding. And
Mhm.
just like this morning, like doing this, I told you I was nervous. You're like, don't forget to ground,
Yeah.
And you were really my confirmation because I'm like, I got to get out to the beach. I got to get out
Yeah.
to, and I didn't. And then you said that. I'm like, okay, Anita, let's
Yeah.
get out there,
Mhm.
like, because it's easy to hide
Mhm.
and to just, get stuck in our own heads.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you go out in nature and you just do it. So yeah, I want them to have that
Amazing.
ability to have that space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Thanks.
So if there was one person listening here that was like in desperate need of inspiration or wisdom, you could, speak to their heart. What would you share?
That you're not alone.
Mm.
You're not alone. There's
Yeah.
so many people that care and so many people that love you. And even
Mm.
if you feel like they don't,
Mhm.
they do.
Yeah.
You will be missed.
Mm.
People will be heartbroken.
Mhm.
And there's help
Yeah.
available.
Yeah.
Like it's for suicide especially, it's a permanent solution to a
Yes.
temporary problem. I mean, I'm
Mhm.
52 now and
Mhm.
like it's like almost I mean seriously like one of the best times of my life.
Yeah.
Even after living with all that money and all that fun, like this is like one of the best times of my
Yeah.
life
Yeah.
because this is like my life and
Mhm.
then and I'm doing something to help others
Yeah.
and to hopefully make a difference.
Yeah.
And I don't care like if it makes a difference in everybody. I don't need to change the world,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
one person, that
Mhm.
one person can become the president.
Mhm.
Who knows? Like
Yeah.
we never know who's
Absolutely.
listening or who's watching.
Yeah. Do you want to share some resources if somebody is in that place where they're contemplating suicide? Do you want to talk about the foundation that you work with or just some of the resources that you've learned in your journey?
Yes. Well, there's the American Foundation for Suicide
Mhm.
Prevention, afsp.org.
Mhm.
They have tons of resources on there. They have classes that even parents can take.
Amazing.
Yes, so they have resources for parents that are struggling with troubled children. They have resources for the kids. They have resources if you want to teach a high school or learn any I mean you can get certifications on
I love
there
that.
for yeah,
Mhm.
so I would go there first, absolutely.
Okay.
afsp.org.
Excellent. Is there anything else that you want to share with the audience before we wrap
The
up?
audience. Well, I want you to know that I'm here and I'm always here. So if you want to share your story, if you feel a desire to share your story and you're looking for a safe place, please reach out. I would love to hear it. And I'm always available if you just want to talk. You can find me on Instagram. Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Again, I'm so grateful for you and your presence in my life personally, and
Oh,
also just how you show up in the community and creating this platform and inviting people to share their story. And I'm excited to share my story
thank
next.
you. You've been an amazing co-host. Now we'll go to round two and you're
Yeah.
in the hot seat.
Okay.